Welcome to the Health Revolution, the program that shows you how to have a life of vibrant well-being. In a world full of noisy health trends, we bring you clarity. We reveal the science-backed strategies that truly work in a sea of fads. We explore the physical strength, emotional resilience, and mental mastery. These are the keys to an enriched life. Join us for inspiring interviews with champions who've conquered life's health challenges. Are you ready to unlock your potential to live with vitality and purpose? Then join the Health Revolution. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison, health and fitness expert, speaker, and a mom who understands. Let's embark on this transformative quest. Together, we're about to change the game, starting now. The information provided in this show is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. Viewers should use their own discretion and consult with a healthcare professional for personalized guidance and recommendations. Welcome, everybody. You are watching the Health Revolution, and we're excited that you are joining us today. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison, and no matter which way you're tuning into us, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. We want to stay connected to you. In addition to that, remember at the bottom of your screen, there is a tab for show episode notes. Very important information to reference for today's episode, and we're getting right into it. So, of course, our show is all about all things the physical, the overcoming the physical health, the emotional resilience, and the mental mastery. And oftentimes we do talk about things a little bit more that cater to a woman's journey through life and all of that. But we can't forget the men, can we? And today we're talking about redefining men's wellness. And I'm excited about this because it is part of the entire equation. There are men in our lives that are important to us. You might be a man who's watching, and we're excited that you're here today. So with that, I get a chance to introduce to you. I'm excited to share with you information on our next guest who is bringing the receipts. First, take a look at this. Meet Kathleen Riley, the trailblazer behind the pre-sensing peace method, designed specifically for men to break the cycle of chronic stress. With her expertise in neuroplasticity and meditation, Kathleen is helping men rewire their brains to transform stress into lasting peace and vitality. Through powerful science-backed methods like positive neuroplasticity and heart-mind coherence, she empowers men to live with more resilience, longevity, and fulfillment. Today, we'll uncover how Kathleen's groundbreaking techniques can help men reclaim peace, energy, and emotional well-being. Kathleen Riley, welcome to the show. How are you?
What a beautiful introduction. I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, you represent a very important space, and I'm excited to talk to you. So first things first, can you talk a little bit about neuroplasticity? What does it mean, and what is your take on the journey? How did you get to really study men's health, and why is it important?
Well, absolutely. So to begin, neuroplasticity is simply your ability to change habits, behaviors, thinking, feeling loops through the intention of the conscious mind, right? So you can imagine a pathway in the woods, perhaps, as an example, right? It hasn't been used many times, only just a few times perhaps, and so it's not a well-defined pathway. And so this is similar, this is analogous to the neurons in the brain, right? So the more you use that pathway, the more carved and clear and obvious it becomes, right? And to the point where it becomes ironed into the subconscious. When you are using your intention to feel a certain emotion, thereby having certain thoughts, because the thoughts we have can only be in line and equal to the emotions we're having. When you use your intention to consciously change your habits inwardly, and what you're doing is you're carving out new neural pathways, which is the essence of neuroplasticity. It's your ability to change and create new behaviors and new habits. So that's, kind of a brief piece there. And in terms of working with men to heal these thinking, feeling patterns that have built the habit of subconscious stress cycles, it was, my own story is much longer, but I healed my chronic stress and panic through meditation and neuroplasticity. And it came to my attention through many, many life experiences that men are very, very, very largely excluded unintentionally, but excluded from this sphere of inner self development. And the greatest challenge that men are facing emotionally is chronic stress. And so yeah, I hope that answers your question.
It does. And I was fascinated to talk to you because I think across time, so if I just addressing just how the genders have moved through this last century, is that women have struggled to have a voice, and at the same time, so men have been the more dominant gender in society. And it is what it was, and things are starting to, there's some moving pieces and all of that. And so then I'm curious, is there a lot of, as the playing field is evening out in terms of talking, communicating, navigating through life, are there certain expectations that men have that's creating way too much stress to where there's a lot of like maybe imploding happening? Is there a correlation between expectations of men being able to be a certain way, but then they're really truly struggling?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And so expanding this whole topic, we know through fascinating psychological research that if you show a young boy a image that should be emotionally distressing, he will, and then you watch his face, you examine the muscles in his face, the changes in facial expression, you'll see a response of emotional distress, heartfelt, response. However, when you show those same images to a young man, after the age of about 18 to 20, so the young boy is roughly 8 to 12, but then after that conditioning period where men are so, in many cultures, men are not taught how to process emotion, how to manage emotion. And what is emotion? Emotion is simply energy in motion. And so what happens is, in that final study, what they found was for just a split second, there would be a facial response, an emotional response to the distressing image. But then subconsciously, that young man, would know to correct and shut down the emotion, to eliminate the feeling, to shut it down. And so there's a lot of conditioning that simply tells men not to feel. And so if you're not feeling, you're not experiencing the fullness of life, right? I mean, we are human beings, whether male or female, we have emotions. And so men are at a great disadvantage in that way. I mean, I could go for so long about all the incredible advantages to managing your emotions and learning how to move from a low emotional state that is stress and fear to a high emotional state that is appreciation and
I'm curious if in terms of chronic stress, you mentioned and we talked about and highlighted that chronic stress has a profound impact on everybody. What in particular have you seen the impact it's had on men? And how much of a difference is this between cultures? Is there a cultural difference or does it not matter?
So great. I was definitely about to go into that piece. The health ramifications are very significant. So, what I see physiologically for men is cardiovascular issues. We know now that more than 90% of chronic modern diseases are related to the chronic cycle of stress. Every day in stress means that the body is in survival mode. And at a cellular level, the body begins to break down over time because we did not evolve to be in chronic fight or flight. So we see cardiovascular issues, we see sleep challenges, we see, decreases in longevity, right? We see so many, and that doesn't include, of course, the social ramifications within, your marriage or within your household or relationships, or we see, lots of weight gain. We see arrhythmia, heart arrhythmia. We see, sciatica, lots of different, migraines. And so those are just to name, a few. And truly, when the nervous system is out of balance because the heart rate variability, which is a very important indicator that shows the health of the heart and therefore the harmony and the coherence of the nervous system, the health of the nervous system, I would say, where it's balanced. When you're looking at a pattern of heart rate variability that has been where the individual has been feeling the emotions of fear and stress for years in a chronic fashion, you see very, very, very erratic patterns. Whereas when you move the heart into a state of, through meditation, when you move that organ into a state of feeling appreciation, the heart rate variability begins to settle and becomes very harmonious and coherent.
I'm fascinated with this because now I'm wondering how much of an impact does this, and I know that recent studies have shown a correlation with chronic stress has a physical impact on the body, whether we've been talking about this or not, or we've just recently talked about this. Does it matter the role that the man plays? In other words, could it, does it matter if it's a CEO of a company, or maybe someone who has a stressful job that maybe the demands of physical labor are pretty high, or maybe a man in the military, where just you're in different situations where obviously that's not a calm environment. Does it, those scenarios, is there a commonality or does it vary?
So here's the fun piece.
Hey,
Here's the fun
fun.
piece.
Let's have some fun.
So what I find in my work is, sure, occasionally I'll, work with a client or work with a gentleman who has some work stressors. But for the most part, actually, men are generally experiencing stress from their personal relationships. So you can have a gentleman in, a CEO position, or you can have a gentleman, in a different position where, it's more like manual, day to day, that kind of work responsibility. But actually, what I find with men is that figuring out emotions and relationships and trying to figure out how people will respond in their personal lives, particularly, is a lot more stressful than work, right? Because what I see is they'll tend to they've been in an industry for a while. A lot of times, the gentlemen who come into this pre-sensing work, they're usually late 30s, 40s, 50s, usually 40s and 50s age range. So they've been in an industry for a couple of decades. They know how to do it. They've got it down. They figured out a lot of the puzzle pieces. They figured out the processes. There isn't a whole lot of stress. It's usually from personal relationships where people are unpredictable, where emotions are hard to figure out. Again, it's not across the board, but to also answer your question, whether you develop the habit of reacting through anxiety in a professional environment or a relationship, a familial environment, it doesn't matter. It's still all pervasive. It still affects every aspect of your life. So does that yeah.
It does. And I find it fascinating because, I think that society's expectation of a man is to be robust, to be strong, and all that implies. And I'm wondering if coping skills or lack thereof make a difference. In other words, that if say you have a man who is, or say there's a gentleman who just is stoic and he just doesn't waver for things, and there's no taking the edge off, there's no attempt to offset the maybe the stressors that's happening, maybe the processing of what's going on. Does it matter how he is handling things?
Absolutely. So let me dive a little deeper. So, as I said earlier, emotion is what drives thoughts. Okay, so you have emotion, then you have the thought. It's like you would plug a lamp into the wall, and the electricity that activates the light in the lamp is the electricity from the grid. So your emotions are energy. It electrifies the thoughts, which then electrify the speaking, which then electrifies the action. So it's kind of a built pipeline there. So it starts with learning to manage the energy, and all energy is just life force energy. It's our belief systems, and it's those deeply wired patterns in the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is just the body, right? That's just the body. And so it's those patterns that actually create the uncomfortable energy and the positive energy, the negative energy and positive energy. So when you learn how to, through meditation, through these processes that I introduce a lot and to clients through pre-sensing, when you learn how to properly manage that energy, then nothing else down the pipeline becomes a real problem, right? And again, like, so much of this comes back into not learning, but literally experiencing how to be present, how to feel, because the language of the body, this is a really important piece I want to bring in. The language of the body is feeling, it's emotion, okay? The language of the mind is thinking. So you can't change a pattern like chronic stress that has been memorized by the body, the subconscious mind, the nervous system, all of that is in that central location. You can't change those patterns by telling yourself, okay, be calm, be calm, be calm, but your body's just in absolute fight or flight, or even just low grade stress to medium grade. So, it's different for each person, but just, that's my piece there.
And we've got so much to dive into. First, we're going to take a commercial break. Come right back, because we will. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this. Hey everyone, welcome back to Fit Bites with Adriana. Today we're talking about something that can save lives, and that's recognizing the warning signs of a heart attack, especially since they can be different for men and women. Now, for both men and women, the most common sign is chest pain or discomfort. It may feel like light pressure, squeezing, or fullness in the center of the chest. This can last for a few minutes or it can come and go. However, heart attack symptoms can be more subtle, especially in women. Now, women may experience unusual signs like shortness of breath, nausea, lightheadedness, or extreme fatigue. Pain in areas like the jaw, the neck, or the back, and even indigestion can be signs of a heart attack, often mistaken for less serious conditions. Now, men may experience classic symptoms like pain radiating down the left arm, but they should also watch for signs like sweating, dizziness, and cold sweats. Roughly 805,000 heart attacks occur annually in the US alone, and out of these, 605,000 are first-time heart attacks, and 200,000 occur in individuals who have already experienced one. In the US, someone has a heart attack every 40 seconds, and about 1 in 5 heart attacks are silent, meaning the damage is done without the individual realizing it. Cardiovascular disease, including heart attacks, remain the leading cause of death worldwide. If you or someone you know experiences any of these symptoms, do not wait. Get help immediately. Early treatment can prevent serious damage and save lives. Remember, heart attacks present differently in everyone, so it's important to listen to your body and take any unusual signs seriously. Stay tuned for more Fit Bites with Adriana. Welcome back to the Health Revolution. Our guest today, Kathleen Riley, and she's a leader in men's wellness. And before the break, we were talking about how the brain and how the body and brain, how men tend to navigate and in what the patterns have been with managing stress and then the overall impact on the body. And Kathleen, I wanted to dive a little bit more into your take on energy psychology and what is that? Because I know that that is part of your method, and I do want to get into your method as we're conversing. What is energy psychology? Why is it important? And what don't we know that we should know about it?
Yeah, no, great, excellent. Energy psychology is looking at largely the influence of emotion on the mind and the body as a whole, because you really can't separate the mind from the body, the brain rather from the body. And so energy psychology is looking at how your thoughts and emotions shape your life. They shape your epigenetics. They influence whether certain genes will express for health and certain genes will express for unwellness, disease. Your thoughts and emotions play, the greatest role in the creation of chronic stress cycles. And so understanding how to use certain techniques to manage not only manage your emotions, that's kind of a heading, but move your emotional state from low to high. So and this is done through connecting to your body, through awareness, through meditation, through closing your eyes every day and going within. And so, and getting really, really relaxed to the point where, think about, okay, two things. One, if you are someone who exists largely in the emotion is energy is frequency, and frequency is information for the body, for the nervous system. Frequency simply means the rate at which an energy vibrates. So when you are sitting in a lot of fear, worry, doubt, even apathy, which can be a very low frequency, you are only going to have thoughts that are fearful, doubtful, anxious, worrisome. So you need, and then as we know, the thoughts that we think and the emotions we feel begin to create our outer environment. They have a huge impact on the life we create. And a lot of times this life we create is subconscious. It's done through patterns that we just think that go in the background, right?
So I have a question for you. Have we always undergone chronic stress across time? Have you, because obviously with each generation prior to, there's always been worldwide events that have taken place and the involvement of society. Have we always been under chronic stress, or we are in a position in our lives right now where it's now more than ever before?
It is really now, I wouldn't say ever before. I can't fully answer that question. However, there were absolutely periods of time where our communities were well knitted together, where we had deep spirituality. We had, you look at the blue zones, right? Those are great examples, studies on the blue zones. That's the way people used to live for the most part. And you see very low rates of disease. You see very low rates of stress. And that's because they're, one, getting outside and moving in the natural world. Two, they have a spiritual life. Three, they're interconnected with their community. So they know beyond a shadow of a doubt if something were to happen, they would be taken care of, right? They're connecting to people every day, and they're moving their bodies. And the food they eat, right, is very clean. And so you have these components. Well, these components are, they're free, right? They're aspects that were innately part of communities, societies, cultures at various points in history. So now, yes, I do believe that we are seeing rampant levels of stress that is due to the fact that a lot of our lives lack those variables, and just the obvious excess of external stimulation, media, etc. So yeah, that's my real perspective on your question.
Does the mind body connection, is that something that you're seeing more men are embracing today? Or
Yes.
is it okay, so you're seeing an involvement and increase of men recognizing that they can benefit from tending to the mind body connection. And my next question to you is obviously the last 4 years have had a direct impact. We've had a spike in some of those levels of stress because of when we entered just the COVID years and all of that. You would say that that was a no brainer. That yes.
Yes. So if I'm answering your question,
Mhm.
so when men, I think younger generations are recognizing this more. So I find the vast majority, as I mentioned earlier, of men entering this work, this practice of pre-sensing their midlife range. And so they're learning that, it doesn't, processing your emotions, okay, feeling, all right, it's not weak. It's not and it doesn't mean that you're going to go sit in the corner and cry your eyes out. That's not what it means. It actually means,
Thank you for saying that, because I think that there's still that stigma of if you show your feelings, it's a sign of weakness, or it still exists to a degree. Would you say?
it, yeah, and really what this is about, I'm telling you, your quality of life is going to be so so much lower, and your physical health is going to be so much worse off, so much poorer, if you are suppressing fear and suppressing those low frequencies, those low emotions. And you don't realize it until you experience something new. And what I mean by this is when you sit down and you start using your frontal lobe, right, the executive of the body, when you start using your frontal lobe to set the intention to change your emotional state, which thereby changes your mental state, and you start to experience this level of peace. I mean, I hear it over and over and over again. I haven't felt this happy since I was a child, right? Is a common thing. When you start to feel this new way of experiencing and seeing life through new eyes, because emotion and thoughts, like that's your whole inner, system of belief. So when that elevates several notches, you're realizing, I didn't know I could feel this content, this peaceful, this relaxed, this joyful, this grateful, this present, right? And all it is going within. You're not going to a corner and weeping. You're just closing your eyes every day for a fixed period of time. You're going within and you're learning how to process and feel that energy that was stuck year after year after year.
And I think that's important and clear, because obviously there's different roles that men have throughout society. And I think that societal pressures could then threaten the how do I say this? The being able to create those boundaries to then redefine, especially if you're going against what a man has been conditioned, how he has moved, and all of that. So I do want to bring up I want to talk about pre-sensing and the pre-sensing method. So I do want to bring up your slide and talk about like your approach, how you what makes your approach different? What is neat about your approach? And what are some things we need to learn about your approach in addressing literally a method for peace?
Yes, 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 yes. My approach, it began in my own journey healing my own chronic stress cycle and panic disorder, where you'll experience. Meditation is a big title, right? It's a big umbrella. And what is unique about this approach is that, first of all, it's an 8-week period whereby you are sitting down 3 times a day. It's an intense approach, but you're looking at 20, 30 years of chronic patterns being fed over and over again. You can't, you know you really requires an intensive process to unravel that habit and teach your nervous system something new. So what you're doing is, for 8 weeks, you are moving your brain and body into what's called, the process is moving your brain and body into what's called theta state, which is a deeply relaxed state whereby the subconscious mind, and this is the state of hypnotherapy. So part of this approach is you're essentially hypnotizing yourself through this meditation work. So you are opening the body up to receive new information very rapidly. And so when you through certain tones, through certain music, through certain breath practices, certain sensing practices, you open the body up to receive that new information very quickly and very rapidly. And when I say new information, I mean the feeling of peace, the feeling of safety, the feeling of love, protection, these innate human necessities. So we go there, and then we focus a fair amount of time on healing the heart as an organ. When you are living in that state of survival and high alert, the heart, is the muscle as a whole, is very, very closed and very tense. And so we work with that and we relax the heart through different breath practices and different raising of emotion, practices whereby the heart can relax and open and that heart rate variability begins to stabilize. And what people often don't know is that the heart actually is sending more information, a lot more information to the brain than the brain is to the heart. So that is a communication pathway that must be created. And so then from there, it's moving into the space of real, what would be called pure consciousness, 0 point, unified field, universe, right? Moving into that space where you're completely disconnected from your outer physical world. And then in that state, then you're able to really bring in even greater, even more powerful, elevated information and emotion. That greater peace, that greater love, that and that greater calm. And so what that does, that's month 1. What that does is that teaches your nervous system. Think of your nervous system like a musical instrument that has to be tuned to certain frequencies. So what that does is it tunes your nervous system to then feel peace, to then feel calm, to then feel safe.
So
And then,
obviously, it's a gradual, it's an evolvement of,
oh gosh, yeah.
it's a process.
Yeah.
And so my next question to you is, is there a correlation with those who start, that men who begin this program and they do this approach, and initially having maybe a higher rate of blood pressure? Are there any other outwardly stressing conditions or characteristics of stress that begin to change over time as they're working through the timeline of this method?
Oh yeah. It's over and over and over again. I see, a client will be going through this process, and 3-4 weeks in, he goes to the doctor, significantly lower blood pressure, right? So it's when the heart is tense, it can't function properly. So there's that piece. And then also, absolutely, oh my gosh, the beauty of neuroplasticity is that every change affects all areas of life. So, when you feel more peaceful and you feel more appreciative, you're able to be a better listener. And that has huge impacts on marriage, relationship quality, and you're able to be a better father. I see over and over again, one of the big reasons why men want to come to this practice is because their kids are growing up rapidly and they've never been able to disconnect from their work and be present with them. So they come to this practice to learn how to be fully present with their child. So they're not stuck in the future, they're not stuck in the past. So what happens when your 8-year-old or your 12-year-old really sees in your eyes, in your body language, in your heartfelt emotions, that you are really listening to them, that you're really present with them, that you're laughing more, that you're more at ease, you're not yelling anymore. That's a big thing, is anger. You're a man who's been taught at a young age to toughen up and don't feel. It's no wonder you're going to develop anger issues and anxiety issues and a sciatica. I've seen sciatica disappear in one meditation. It's so much is rooted in that tension and that stress, right?
And we're going to continue on. First, we're going to take a commercial break. Stay right there. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this. Thank you so much for watching The Health Revolution. Our show is growing, and it's all thanks to viewers like you. No matter how you found us, please hit the subscribe button so we can stay connected and continue to deliver amazing content to you.
Introducing Launchpad, the perfect partner to help you launch your dream project to the world. We know that time is of the essence, and we're here to help you make the most of it. With Launchpad, you'll get access to the most advanced digital tools and strategies to take your idea from a mere concept to a fully fledged success. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur or a seasoned pro, we have everything you need to make your mark in the world. Launchpad, your ultimate launch partner.
We can take our own health into our own hands. Okay, so we'll kind of expand on that. So I take a lot of vitamins every day. Long before I started this business, my wife has had me taking my vitamin C, my B complexes, amino acids every single solitary day, and I still do, even though I still do IVs as well. But when you take vitamins orally, you get 15 to 20% of them. Some people get less because they have autoimmune issues. Some people have a lot of inflammation issues, whatever the case may be, so they don't get the absorption that they need to be getting. So they don't get their immune system built up. Doing the mobile IVs, I'm able to take your immune system, I'm able to naturally boost it.
Welcome back to the Health Revolution. Today, we're talking about redefining men's wellness with my guest today, Kathleen Riley. And Kathleen, before the break, you started to tap into the tendency for there to be the presence of anger if it just as part of the characteristics of how a man who is not processing or if he's not managing stress, and that it just kind of evolves and that it's just part of the landscape. And so, I'm curious how much of this. So I want to ask you a question that's like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? When it comes to when you take a generational patterns of, say, the robust personality, maybe the line of men in a particular family are just rough and tough, and the whole thing in the other. How much of that is DNA impacted, and how much of that is condition, nature versus nurture? And then, so which one comes first, or which one has a bigger impact, or does it not matter?
Yeah, no, really great question. I was having this conversation yesterday where you're going back to the epigenetic piece, right? Where what was once thought of and named junk DNA is now actually dormant genes that will be expressed on the basis of the environment in which the genes live. So your inner environment, your thoughts and emotions, is where the genes live. So your ability to not live in survival mode or live in survival mode, right? So we'll say peace versus stress, your ability to be a peaceful, calm, proactive man rather than a reactive, angry, everything happens to me man, rather than I happen to life. So that literally, I mean, it's just fascinating. And this is more cutting edge stuff. It's fascinating how what we feel and what our father felt. So what this man feels, what his father felt, what his grandfather felt. These are negative emotions activate the production of stress hormones. So even though, maybe your grandfather, wasn't outwardly an anxious guy, but he was an angry guy, he's still living in stress because that is still a low vibration that activates stress hormones. So when he activates those hormones, he is turning on genes that are not healthy. He's literally making himself more susceptible to turn on poor, unhealthy genetic code, right? And he passes those genes down to his son, who then passes it down, or daughter, right? Then passes it down all the way down the line. And So absolutely, it has a huge effect on the offspring and heretical line. So there's does that answer your question?
It does,
I
and I'm
feel like there was
curious.
another question you had.
Yeah, well, I have lots. But I'm curious if the line of profession also dictates if it just has a huge impact. I keep coming back to that. So, say the person who is leading a prominent leader in a company or organization where the pressures are on them. Someone who's in the armed forces or someone who is in a line of work in which there's a lot of there's like life is on the line, like say first responders, where obviously you're moving with a sense of urgency. For those three scenarios, does it not matter? Could you take someone who's like a librarian and still go through that? Or I don't know why that came to mind, but comparing and contrasting, does it not matter, or is there a substantial impact that the profession has? And I don't know where I was going with the librarian thing. I figured it was a little,
Sitting in a peaceful, quiet environment, you would assume they're pretty relaxed.
yeah.
So it's amazing because it really depends on the person.
Okay.
I now it depends on the person, and it also depends on their upbringing as well. So I have had clients in, very relaxed, 9 to 5, not demanding, like great work life balance, but they are riddled with stress. And it's because that was the environment in which they were shaped as children. And then you have someone who, I am not even joking. I have worked with men who are in would seem like incredibly stressful careers, and yet what they tell me is that the moment they walk into their work, they're totally relaxed, they're totally calm. That actually, the quote, perceived pressures actually make them calm, right? So it really depends on the person. It really depends on, and yeah.
So then if it depends on the person, do they still, regardless of circumstance, they have the opportunity to turn things around? Now, obviously the timeline in which there's a noticeable difference from say pre moment of starting and the stressors being rampant and being at a point where they're not affecting you and now they're in a much healthier state of mind. So I'm sure that varies, but then do they still, regardless of background, they still have the opportunity to turn things around, correct?
Oh yeah, and that's the beauty of neuroplasticity. That's the beauty of the being a human being. I mean, what an honor to be a human being, right? We can use our frontal lobe to change. And truly, I have, my gosh, I've had clients, come to me, they're 62 years old and they've been caught in the stress cycle for 30 years. And they're able to turn it around in 8 weeks. And suddenly there's this level of freedom they never felt, or they forgot, or some of them have never felt it in their whole life. So absolutely, that's the beauty of being a human being.
Oh, that's fantastic. We're going to take a quick commercial break and we will be right back. Stay right there. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this. Welcome back to the Health Revolution. My guest today, Kathleen Riley, we are talking about all things redefining men's wellness, and this has been a riveting conversation. Kathleen, where can we find you in the virtual space?
Yes, thank you. First of all, thank you for such an amazing conversation. Yes, virtually. You can find me on YouTube. I've got a great channel with lots of tools. You can also try out some of our free courses on our app. So we have a wonderful app. That's where the whole community lives, and then and so that's the greatest two avenues.
Now, I just want to add context on your app or on the website. There's a distinction between viewers and those logging on can tap into the App Store or Google Play Store, depending upon if they have an iPhone or a Android. So if they're iPhone or Android user, yes. And what would you say to the gentleman who is watching, who is like, I don't even know where to begin? In a nutshell, I don't know where to begin to start tapping into and addressing chronic stress. What would be the most immediate steps to do?
So first, I would say, why do you want to change the cycle? Get very clear. Because the motivation piece is big. Make sure you understand why you want to change it. And then the other piece is get quiet, close your eyes, grab a pen and paper, go within and figure out, okay, what is that one habit that I don't like? Maybe I'm too reactive with my children. Maybe there's someone at work or my spouse. Maybe there's something that I'm reacting to greatly. What are the emotions I'm feeling? How do those feel in my body? Do I feel tense? Do I stop breathing? And what are the thoughts I'm thinking when that stimulus comes up? And then from there, choose the new thought and emotion, right? And then also, just practicing that breath, practicing settling down. If you can feel silent and there's nothing in your mind for 1 second, great. Then build up. And I have all of these wonderful tools on my YouTube channel as well.
Kathleen Riley, we appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for sharing your insight and just very riveting conversation. Thank you for talking with me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And for all our viewers, of course, you can find us on the web at thehealthrevolutiontv.com. You can certainly subscribe to our newsletter. You can send emails with any show episode ideas you'd love for us to cover. Upper left-hand corner of your screen, you will see our QR code, and feel free to snag that. And then, of course, every Tuesday and Thursday, this is where you'll find us on E360 TV and all distribution channels, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, each and every single week. We're proud to connect with you. That is all the time that we have. Until next time, take care of yourselves. We will see you soon.